Hello viewers. Topic is about Shanghai Cooperation Summit in recently happened in China. The what is the Shanghai Cooperation's organization, and then the topic is the SCO summit and its impacts for India China relations in 2025. If you look at the whole scenario, what kind of the diplomacy the played by the China in the last uh, since the independence of India, the India-China relations, there is a some point of divergence, some point of convergence is there. After China established in 2001 the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, it is known as the SCO. So if you look at the history of the SCO, what were the objectives, why China established, what was the regions covered under the SCO. But this meeting is not the regular diplomacy of the China. If you look at the whole meetings, series of meetings with the world leaders, more than 20 countries leaders attended this Shanghai Cooperation Summit in Tianjin in China, along including Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi. If you go through the what kind of the diplomatic recalibration at the Tianjin, the SCO summit, there is a two side of the diplomacy is there. There is an impact on India-China relations as well as the global order. We know that there is a Ukraine crisis, ongoing crisis is there, the military conflict with Russia. Second side, India already engaged in the for 2-3 months before the Operation Sindoor. So what kind of the diplomacy where India stands, it matters to world leaders along with the we say the powerful countries. During the Operation Sindoor, there was some informations or whatever say it is the China who supported Pakistan. But despite all the facts, Indian Prime Minister visited Tianjin Shanghai Cooperation Summit. There is a lot of series of meetings with the Chinese president, the Russian president, and other leaders is there. If you look at the declarations, it is to we say it is the pivotal moment in the complex India-China dynamic relations. After the 7 years, Indian Prime Minister visited there. In China, if how many countries are the part of Shanghai cooperations? India was the members in 2017. Earlier, it was the dialogue partners. Most of the Central Asian countries, last 2-3 years, it was extended to some of the West Asian countries, along with the Russia and South Asian countries, including Pakistan, Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Kyrgyzstan, Turkmenistan, Tajikistan, Iran, Afghanistan, Pakistan, China, Mongolia. So these are countries for the part of Shanghai cooperations. It was the international organization for the regional cooperations in the context of economic trade cooperations, in context of the regional security cooperations, in the context of the people to people contact, what about the cultural technology and other part of the cooperation with the among the countries, especially that designed by the China. So if we look at the history of Shanghai cooperations, China claim it is the Shanghai esprit for the world order. It is the Asian dreams of the China through the Shanghai cooperations. But these meetings were the Tianjin meeting was the very special. It was there was the parade, military parade, the victory over the Japan. All attendee were the part of the victory parade. Then second, China shows its strength in the world diplomacy, the world politics. Whatever the Americans claims, the U.S. politics and the world order to the Moscow's, many more things is there. But one thing is here, if you look at the whole scenario of the world politics, one side is the Beijing is there, second is the Moscow, and third is the Washington's. In between there is India is there. Whatever the axis is there, India have some opportunity to represent its reconcile with the relation with the China. The primary goals of this meeting was the promoting peace and security in the regions, especially Central Asia and the South Asian regions, foster cooperations like trade, economic, science, technology, and the culture, work toward the new democratic, just, rational, global political economic order. So, the evolution is there, the formation since 2001, it was the earlier it was named the Shanghai 5, 1996. Then come for the main objective was the terrorism, separatism, and extremism, as per the whatever the China declares under the Shanghai Cooperations, Shanghai 5. The charters shiftings due to the many incidents, global events happened during the last 25 years. So these meetings was the beyond the China-India's relations, participations, importance, because the very lot of dynamics, the political dynamics, the security dynamics, more the consensus-based decision is there. Whatever the China is trying to explain to the world, especially the Western world and European countries. But Americans have recently imposed the 50% tariff on the India. The regions, whatever that they say, there is some trade tariff or some the Ukraine ongoing Russia-Ukraine military conflict or many more region is there. Some of the on the surfaces is there in the world politics and the communities. The peoples know that US and India are the democratic countries and they are the strategic partners. So they have the own design to promoting India's the trade and democracy is here. But we have to be considered the relations reconciliation with the China, especially after the post Galwan. There is some lot of issues were there. We never considered the China as a friend, but in the diplomacy, in the language of diplomacy, sometimes you have to be prepared for the what kind of the trade and others accept military cooperation with the China. So, if you look at the Shanghai cooperations, the series of meeting with the Indian prime ministers and the Chinese premiers Xi Jinping's, they are ready to cooperate in trade and other regional cooperations, the pillars of the other regional cooperations in the South Asia as well as the Central Asian regions. The economic opportunities, trade and export destinations. Yes, SCO is significance for India in terms of connectivity, counter-terrorism, regional anti-terrorist structures, rights, engagement with the Central Asia, because we have to be access as a country energy resources from the Central Asian countries. Some of the countries are the, we say most of the countries are the strategic partners, but there is some one side is the China is there, the other side is the Russia is there. In that way, we have to be fix our diplomacy towards the connectivity, towards the trade cooperations and other kind of the cooperations for the progress and the development of the country. It will also balancing regional dynamics, especially in the South Asia, to engage China, connectivity and sovereignty. India's participation allowed to promote its connectivity project, but India had some objections. Whatever the China promoting Belt Route Initiative, that is the new Silk Route, BRI project, because there is a lot of apprehension geopolitical scenario that challenges putting on the India's diplomacy, India's foreign policy. If you look at the diplomatic landscape before the Shanghai Cooperation Summit, the deep freeze, if you look at the India-China relations, especially the post-Gulf War 2020 to 2024, during the pandemic and the Galwan Valley clashes, bilateral relations plummeted to their lowest point in the decades. Yeah, it is the second direct confrontations after the 1962 war. There is a transactional though initial indications of potential reset emerged in 2024 at the BRICS summit in Kazan. But there is some red line for the India's diplomacy as well as the China's trap for the South Asia. If we look at the key outcomes and agreements on this Tianjin summit in China, development partners, China phrases the words partners not rivals signifies the strategic diplomatic signals. This is attempt to reframe the relationship towards cooperation rather than the pure geopolitical competition. Second side is there also the factors who is most challenging factor between the India-China relations, that is the border management. So both agree towards these things. The settled a committee or establish the expert group for whatever the existing working mechanism to settle the border management and the economic re-engagements. Yes, there is a commitment to expanding trade and investment flow from the China as well as the Indian sides. The resumption of the direct flights, easier visa procedures, business and tourism. That means the part of the people's diplomacy. If you look at the strategic calculus, whatever the India's perspectives, why this summit is good for Indian diplomacy in the present scenario, especially after the post-Indore. There is a lot of questions in the Western medias, even the Chinese media and the Indian medias, about the what are the challenges of the Indian foreign policy, what is the outcomes, how to manage all the powerful countries, especially the major powers, how India can engage through the multi-element foreign policy. One side is the United States, the other is the Russia, third is the China and the European countries. So it may be some balance the strategic autonomy signals India's foreign policy, not dictated by the external powers, whatever the academicians and others, the quote unquote say it is the strategic autonomy. Hedging against volatility, recent global economic uncertainties, particularly the imposition of US tariff on the India's goods makers, China economically pragmatic and advantage. And third, we can say the SCO meeting may be impact the coming years. We can say how the India deal with the China's relations, especially geopolitical context. But in trade, we know there is a huge trade deficit with the India, especially India-China trade and economic relations. Other side, we can say there is some countering US influence in the regions, economic imperatives, securing the west flank, in the whole geographical condition of South Asia. Recently, 2-3 days back, there is a unprecedented crisis in Nepal. Before there was the Bangladesh crisis, then Sri Lanka. Most of the neighboring countries of India are under volatile situations. They are facing the undemocratic crisis, political crisis, unsettled government. It was began with after the withdrawing of the US forces in Afghanistan. Afghanistan, we say sometimes in Pakistan, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, almost all countries, the political destabilized countries right now. We don't know what happened tomorrow in the South Asia regions. If you look at the whole regional geopolitical influence, the political order and the economic re-engagement with the major powers. So, strategic calculus, if you go through the Chinese perspectives, yes, China want to play the very important role in the South Asian regions. So, this cooperation is in the favor of the China, because most of the countries, our neighboring countries, the friendly countries like the Bangladesh, Nepal, Bhutan, all are looking at it. The India is the only country who can counter the China. But if India is under influence of the Chinese cooperations, or so maybe the other geopolitical impact on these relations, as well as the whole region of the South Indian subcontinent, economic imperatives, maybe the facing domestic economic challenges. China views India as massive and rapidly expanding market. India is the market for the Chinese goods. It is not today. In the last 15 to 20 years or 25 years, India captured the Indian markets. China goods captures the Indian market, most of the 70 to 80% market of the India. So that is the crucial for the China in the Chinese perspectives. They consider that this relation is good for the Chinese products, Chinese economy. And then third point, if you look at the Chinese perspectives, de-escalating intention with India allows Beijing to reallocate resources, a strategic focus towards other critical flashpoints, particularly Taiwan Strait and the contested South China Sea regions. China is thinking if India is become the friendly country, not opposing the Chinese plan in the South Asian as well as the other region, so it may be though favoring China's geopolitical interest in the second sides. They thinking India is the global alliance with the Europeans and American countries. So if you look at the enduring fault lines with the, or we say the India-China diplomatic and political relations, economic relations, and security relations. So there is an unresolved border is there. No reversions to status quo after the Galwan clash. Second is the Tibet issues, Dalai Lama is there, issues is there, that which determine sometimes the influence India-China relations. Border dispute is there, that is the unresolved borders. Trust deficit, especially after 1962. These issues have some impacts or a greater impacts on the bilateral cooperation with the regional or global cooperation with the China. So some of the critical issues is also redefine the sphere of influence of India-China relations. Suppose that economic imbalance, while leaders agree to boost trade, but there is a trade deficit more than $99 billion with the favor of China. That is the very critical issues. The second issue is the Pakistan factors. Islamabad remains the strategic partner with the China. China actively provides the military aid, economic aid to Pakistan. There is a significant evidence that China favors Pakistan during Operation Sindoor. Contrasting ambitions is there. Whatever the American thinking about the multipolar world order, or it is the unipolar world order. So both nations, India and China, advocate for the multipolar world order. Respective visions for the multipolar Asia, fundamentally diverse. India seeks a regional balance of the power, for China actions frequently suggest ambitions for regional hegemony, because China has the one ambitions about the Asian, there's a dreams of Asian dreams that is called the Asian dreams, dragons Asian dreams, where India is not fit for their dreams. So if you look at the whole East Asian regions, or look at Central Asia, Southeast Asia, or Southeast Asia, Central Asia, and the South Asia, that is the Indian subcontinent. China has own plan through the BRI project, Belt Road initiatives, for the connectivity, geopolitical sphere of influence, containment of India. One of the example, the most geopolitical investment of the China is the Pakistan, that is the China-Pakistan economic corridor. Most of the countries in the South Asia, they are the under influence of the China than the India today. So these kind of the policies is there. Though these are the factors who defined, who designed the India-China relations in the 21st century. There is a lot of issues, lot of divergence, lot of, we say, new opportunity, explore the new opportunity. Yes, it is good for the world diplomacy, it is good for the any potential relation with the Chinese, whatever the political diplomatic engagement, especially to maintain the geopolitical order, to resettle the policies, the framework of the foreign policy. But Shanghai cooperations play a very crucial role in that context to re-establish peace and security in the South Asian regions. If China and India work together, it may change the global order. If China has other geopolitical calculus with India, definitely India will trap in Chinese calculations of the strategic hegemony in the South Asia as well as the neighboring countries of the India. So there is some chances about this. If Shanghai spirit is working towards the collective efforts for the maintain peace and stability, security, economic cooperation, regional cooperations, regional connectivity, it is all about there is no issue with the India. But if you go through the different phases of history of the India and China, definitely its impacts. That's why after the 2001, after 1996 establishment of Shanghai 5, India joined 2017 as a full membership of the Shanghai cooperations. US attempted many times for the becoming the dialogue partners or the membership in Shanghai cooperation, but China rejected. So there is some geopolitical interest. We can say Russia is there. Today's in geopolitics or international relations, China and Russia are the very strategic partners. So in that axis, they challenge the Western influence. But second side of a story is here about where India's foreign policy or where is the India leadership. It is trapped in the whatever the axis of Russia China, Russia US, or US China. There are three axes who defined diplomacy of the India's foreign policy, how to re-establish the multipolar world order along with the resettlement, cooperations with the China in the dynamics of trade, economic, regional security, people to people cooperations, or whatever the region emerging issues in cyber warfare to the terrorism is there. But some of the reality is also there. We cannot deny the Pakistan factor is there. Chinese the political systems, it is lead to the authoritarian systems. They do not like the democracy, but India follows the democratic patterns, parliamentary democracy. So there is some gray area how to define, how to readjust with the resetting of the relations with the China. No doubt, Shanghai cooperations can play significant role or important role to redesign India-China cooperations in the South Asian region, as well as with the confidence of taking confidence of the our neighboring countries, especially Nepal, Bhutan, Maldives, Bangladesh, but recently ongoing crisis in most of the countries in the South Asia have the greater significance on the trade, economic and development prosperity in the regions. It directly or indirectly impact on India's relations with the China, or we can say maybe some other factors who can influence on the most emerging issue in the world politics. So this is the Shanghai Cooperation's outcomes of the 2025 and they are the implication for India-China relations. Thank you.